He can certainly put the ball on the floor and make plays.
Here's Julian Reese really coming into his own as a sophomore, but denied by Huntley-Hatfield.
He just sat right on that left hand. And I'm really interested to see Julian Reese tonight as the competition ramps up. He has gotten off to a fantastic start this season, though.
Nice drive and dish by Ellis. Jalen Withers, though, off the mark. They are two of the three captains for the Cardinals this year, along with Sidney Curry coming off the bench for the second straight game. Good footwork by Dante Scott.
He has just looked like a totally different person. Lost 25 pounds in the offseason, and it has shown the work he's put in. He's played like an all-conference player. Just putting defenders in the mix on that possession.
Averaging 15.5 points, 6.5 rebounds per game, shooting lights out. Ellis. On second effort, the roll goes. Mike James, the redshirt freshman from Orlando, draws Louisville back within a point.
Well, nice cut initially by Mike James. You get the dribble drive from Ellis, and we're going to see that all night.
Well, just some remarkable numbers coming out of Maryland's start to the season. Coming into this game, the Terps, as they still play from in front, have trailed for just 3 minutes and 23 seconds. That's through 6 games, 240 game minutes. And their largest deficit was the last time out against Coppin State. They trailed by 3 for an instant.
I think that's why Kevin Willard, when we talked to him at shoot-around today, was really looking forward to just seeing what this team is going to look like with a little bit of adversity. They played so well at the Mohegan Sun against 2 quality opponents in St. Louis and Miami, but life on the road, even with Louisville being 0-6, it can present different challenges, and I'm sure that's what Coach Willard is looking forward to seeing here tonight.
And they were not challenged their last time out, home on Friday against Coppin State, where they had 3 players go for more than 20. Off the bounce, Jameer Young's got 5 early points.
He is so good at getting back to that left hand, and now just making a play. That's just a really poor pass from Jalen Withers, a guy who's turned the ball over at will this year.
Hakeem Hart makes them pay. Ellis looking to go end-to-end. A little strong off the window.
Not a high percentage look there. You're going to the 2 Maryland defenders.
Long rebound off the James miss. Comes to Don Carey, the graduate transfer from Georgetown. And a blocking foul called against the Cardinals.
Well, early Maryland's defense turning into offense. Heads up play by Jameer Young, making a play on the ball. Now the fight for it. Hakeem Young going through contact. Went off. And that picture, I mean, it's jarring to see him now today. His body, it's a complete transformation. He is playing at the highest level of his career early on this season.
And not every new coach could come into a situation and say those things to a player and have it work out the right way. But Kevin Willard did have a relationship with Dante Scott, trying to recruit him to Seton Hall a few years ago, and they have just picked up where they left off. Tough shot by Ellis, out of bounds. Louisville will keep. Well, Kevin Willard spent the last 12 years with the Pirates. 5 times to the NCAA. Likely was going to go in 2020 as well and have the opportunity to move on to Maryland. And so far he has been up to the challenge. Hakeem Hart bumped before the shot by the freshman Kamari Lands. That's his first personal since coming off the Louisville bench.
The Louisville defense has not been great on the season, but your defense can't be good if you are continuously giving the basketball away. And it's a really nice steal by Hakeem Hart, anticipating that pass, but still just so casual from Kamari Lands.
At the line, Hakeem Hart, you like that his usage rate is up this year.
Well, last year, he was in the top 15 in terms of offensive rating in all of college basketball, but he was on so low usage. With Fats Russell, Eric Ayala, those guys certainly dominated the offense. But I just think that a kind of a change of scenery, new head coach. And look, Kevin Willard's going to demand that you defend at the highest level, but he's going to give you freedom offensively to play. He's always been like that. just think Hakeem Hart's a player that's pretty good at everything. He does a lot of positive things on the floor. Rebounds, defends, and now this season has really shown offensively what he's capable of.
Well, how many teams in the Big Ten or around the country have 2 6'8" wings as versatile as these two guys?
With him and Dante Scott, the way that they have played, and then a young big in Julian Reese, this starting five is incredibly talented for Maryland. And I think the question is going to be, how much production can you get off the bench?
Well, they are on a 10-0 run here to open up the 15-4 lead, while Louisville has missed its last 6 shots from the floor. .15 on the shot clock. Here is Ellis, the senior from Durham, North Carolina, and he dribbled it off his leg out of bounds. Turnover number 5 in the first 6.5 minutes.
Last season, Ellis, really a scoring guard, and that's what his game is. And because of the roster makeup, he's been forced to play the point. I think it is important, though, that we keep noting with the NCAA investigation still going on into this summer, it was really difficult for Kenny Payne to convince anybody, especially you think about grad transfers, 1- and 2-year guys, to come play. They want to play in the NCAA tournament.
It's a 13-0 run. Yeah, no question about it, Robbie. And the feeling around here is that, yes, it is tough at the moment, but now that that cloud has been lifted, they are going to finally be able to turn the page.
You can just feel the energy in this building has been totally zapped. The Louisville Cardinal faithful looking for any type of positive play to get behind, but this has been all Maryland here so far.
Ian Martinez off the bench. Soaring in, Dante Scott kept it alive, but pulled away by Brandon Huntley-Hatfield. Ellis off the bounce. That snaps the Maryland run.
It's a tough shot by Ellis coming off that ball screen, just rising up.
Well, one of the key points shared by Kevin Willard at their shoot-around today was that we've got to attack and go after Ellis and wear him out.
It's every play he's got the ball in his hands. Here we go again. He's just going to play pick and roll and look to get to the basket. Big night for these Maryland guards in terms of their one-on-one defense.
Foul committed on the reach-in by Jahari Long. That is his first.
Ian Martinez, known more as being an athlete, but Louisville is deciding to go a little 2-3 zone to get the dribble.
Asked him, he had a 6-year run as an assistant coach here at Louisville under Rick Pitino, so coming back to Louisville, even though when he was on staff, they played at Freedom Hall. Asked him what it's like for him to come back, and he immediately thought about his young son, Colin, who was born here, and that's what he thinks of first. And from what he says, Colin and brother Chase are back home with Kevin's wife, Julie, watching the ball game tonight and watching their team off to a quick start.
Also cool to see him reminisce about just how many good people that he got to see on his return trip here. It's another tough shot there, this time by Jalen Withers, but you could just tell that this has a special place in his heart. Being an assistant under Rick Pitino and the job that staff did, go to the 2005 Final Four.
Dante Scott will have a chance for a three-point play.
They love to run this action for Dante Scott, where it looks like it's going to be a dribble handoff. He keeps it instead and burns it right to the basket. And again, on display, Dante Scott's ability to make plays for himself.
That foul was on Roosevelt Wheeler, 6'11" sophomore from Richmond, Virginia, into the game. Noah Batchelor's come on for Maryland, number 11 in black. Julian Reese, the very good sophomore center, back on the floor as well for the Terps. Withers runs into Reese, goes around him, but a whistle and a foul. Second foul on Julian Reese, a sophomore from Baltimore who's been on quite a roll lately. And we talked about, when you've got a coaching change, Kevin Willard comes in and he assesses what the roster is, and He very much wanted Julian Reese to stay and pitched the fact that he would coach him up, and cited his success at Seton Hall with a couple of other bigs in recent years.
Between Angel Delgado and Sandro Mamukelashvili, who now plays for the Milwaukee Bucks, and certainly Kevin Willard's track record of developing bigs, something that he could point to. And I think from watching Julian Reese play last year, it was so apparent how much ability he has, and he has shown that early on in the season, coming off a career-high 24 points against Coppin State. Also has 11 offensive rebounds the last two. And he's shooting 80% from the field on the year. He's been tremendous.
Well, coming up next over on ESPN and the ESPN app at 9:30 Eastern, the 24th Annual ACC Big Ten Challenge rolls on with number 3 Virginia taking on Michigan in Ann Arbor. And UVA seems to be back to UVA.
Boy, and not just their defense, but their offense has been phenomenal. They're shooting the ball at such a high clip, getting to the foul line. They look like the real deal. And you know their defense is going to bring it, but their offense has been great too.
A rare miss for Dante Scott. Long rebound comes to Martinez. Reset the shot clock to 20. Then he threw it out of bounds. Hakeem Hart was going back door, but the pass was behind him. And now Don Carey comes back in, replacing Ian Martinez. Don Carey is one of the DMV guys on Kevin Willard's roster, which they've done a marvelous job cleaning up for next year in terms of their incoming recruits, and that has been so important over the years and over the decades at the University of Maryland.
That's certainly been a point of emphasis. And you're talking about one of the most talent-rich areas in all of the country in terms of high school basketball. So Kevin Willard, no surprise there for him to mine that pipeline.
Well, he brought in a couple of assistant coaches who know that area well. David Cox, the former URI head coach, is from Landover, and Tony Skinn is from Tacoma Park. And so they know the ins and outs. They know the high schools. They know the AAUs. Winding down to the midpoint of the first half here at the KFC Yum Center in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. 5 on the shot clock. Tough shot. And apparently it was off the cylinder as Jameer Young, crashing the offensive glass, now has 9 points.
It was close, but that's a heck of an effort from Jameer Young, your point guard crashing in, and then on the flip side of that, Ellis just leaving his feet to pass and throwing it to Kevin Willard. And look at the way he just flies in. Boy, that's really close to being in that cylinder. This will give us a pretty good look here. Well, I think he was off from seeing that view.
I do too.
That's a great play by Jameer Young.
And for somebody who has transferred from a mid-major from Charlotte up to Maryland, he has integrated very well and seems to be a natural leader where that could potentially be a difficult task.
It's all about fit. And Kevin Willard talked about that at shoot-around today, how he wasn't going to take anybody that he thought couldn't help this team in terms of a chemistry perspective. But this is a 3-time All-Conference USA selection and a guy that scored the rock at a high level.
Withers no. And there is number 1, Jameer Young, dribbling up himself. Hakeem Hart dump it off Scott, and he'll pull it back out. Young spotting up. And the rebound comes to Jalen Withers.
That's the one thing for Maryland this year that's been a little hit or miss. You know, they have run hot and cold shooting the ball from the perimeter. That's a wide open shot. Got to knock those down if you're Maryland Terrapins.
Ellis with his second basket. Traveling violation, and the folks who are here at the KFC Yum Center starting to come to life.
Well, Louisville making some things happen. You know it's going to be a big game in terms of having to guard Ellis off the bat. I think Kenny Payne expects a lot from Jalen Withers, but getting it all out of him so far has been a challenge. Had a tough sophomore year, and certainly has turned it over, hasn't shot it great this season, but he's got to be a guy that raises his game.
There's the former Louisville star from back in the 1980s, back at his alma mater for his first year as head coach, recently turning 56 years old. And it's not like this Louisville roster does not have talent, Robbie. There are a number of former ESPN 100 recruits.
No doubt. And Ellis, the number 1 JUCO player in the country. So there is talent, but the makeup of it is incredibly rare in any level of basketball where it's almost all forwards. I mean, that's why they should be a better rebounding team because they're huge.
But they got off to a rough start to the year, losing 3 consecutive one-point games, trying to get win number 1 tonight.
Here's getting close already. 9 points, 3 rebounds, 4 of 7 from the field. The transfer from Charlotte really done some good things on the offensive end of the floor, but you know he's always going to play hard and compete. The steal here, just an active first half for Jameer Young. Certainly Kevin Willard going to be pleased with his point guard.
And Jameer Young, as we mentioned, from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, out of DeMatha Catholic High School, which, of course, has produced all sorts of talent over the years. But his teammates at DeMatha Catholic, how about this? Hunter Dickinson, Justin Moore, Earl Timberlake.
I mean, they
could win some games.
Never a shortage of talent that's coming out of DeMatha. They always are loaded.
And he is one of 4 Terrapins, averaging 14 points or better on the year. And as you mentioned, he, along with Reese and Hart, all 3 went over 20 points in their win Friday over Coppin State. The schedule will get markedly more difficult going forward, but if you're Maryland, you can't do better than 6-0.
No, I mean, you got to play who's on the schedule in front of you, and we're going to learn a lot about this Maryland Terrapin team as conference play gets underway with games against Illinois. They go to Wisconsin, and then a couple more non-conference games that are really, really tough ones.
Reese lost the handle, and it's a shot clock violation. Louisville down by 10, 7:45 remaining. Kenny Payne. In 4 years playing for Hall of Famer Denny Crum, scored over 1,000 points his senior year, all Metro Conference. Remember the Metro Conference? He made second team and then was a first-round pick and spent 4 years playing in the NBA. And he most recently was in the NBA after a long stint as an assistant at Kentucky under John Calipari. So a big challenge for him ahead as well. Huntley-Hatfield working on Reese. Double team, gets the ball out of his hands. Nice strong drive along the baseline. I loved what Kenny Payne told us about Mike James today. If I had 8 of him, we wouldn't lose.
Well, he loves his competitive spirit, and they're a quality possession for the Louisville Cardinals. You get a post touch, you skip the basketball, extra pass, and James getting to the rack.
Reese bottled up, passes out of it, 5 to shoot. They find the open man, Dante Scott. Great ball movement by the Terrapins.
Julian Reese, so comfortable in that possession with that post double coming over. It didn't faze him one bit. Threw a bullet of a skip pass across the floor.
Withers, double team, steps through it, puts it up on the glass and rim.
That's a terrible shot. This is the good of the Louisville offense, where you move the basketball, you get a high-quality drive, a high-quality look. Consistency has really been what has eluded Louisville's offense. You'll see them do some good things, but then they revert back to over-dribbling, taking bad shots, turning the ball over, and it kills you.
That certainly is the case. Of the 3 games in Maui, lost to Arkansas by 26, to Texas Tech by 32, and then to Cincinnati on Wednesday.
And the Cincinnati game, they were in, and all of a sudden they cut it to, it's a 2-point game at halftime. They cut it to 10 under 4 minutes in the second half. But just the breakdowns, and they're a really smart play. Withers has a size mismatch, posts up, throw it over the top, but it's got to be more possessions like that.
Coach Willard calls timeout. The lead is down to 9. Kenny Payne trying to pick up win number 1 here tonight. Calls timeout to try and regather as Louisville's making a push. Under 6 minutes to go in the first half with Robbie Hummel. I'm Doug Sherman. And the only thing that will satisfy the fans anywhere, and especially here in this hotbed of college basketball, is winning ball games. And at 0-6. I mean, it's just strange coming here. You're so accustomed to the fact that you're going to have 20,000 people in the building. They draw huge television ratings, and they are just off so far this year. Again, good ball movement, finding Carey wide open. And he's been the one Terrapin who really hasn't gotten going offensively this year at only 26%.
Career 38% three-point shooter, and Maryland has found success getting good looks when they play inside out. Now, this is good ball movement by Louisville. That's a tough shot, though, by J.J. Traynor. I mean, if it's not there, move it. Ball's not on fire.
Martinez, hip check by Withers, who commits his first foul.
If that shot clock is it 2? I'm with that shot from J.J. Traynor, but you got a good 10, 12 seconds remaining. If it's not there, you can move the ball.
And we have seen that exact decision multiple times already tonight. Young attacks, dumps it off. Reese gathers, goes up, and puts it in.
Oh, really nice pass. Great decision there by Jameer Young. And Maryland's so good at running that dribble handoff action. He drops it back to Julian Reese for an easy bucket.
First 2 points of the night for Reese. Makes it 28-17. Offensive foul, Withers. Second foul on number 24.
You got to be aware in these under out of bounds situations that Maryland is going to look to run this DHO action. And there's a great pass. And this charge, I thought this was a block. I mean, that's definitely a blocking foul right there. Dante Scott clearly still sliding sideways.
Carey has a step on the baseline, working on James, but he stepped on the baseline. The Maryland turnover gives it back to Louisville. Back in Kamari Lands, the freshman out of Hillcrest Prep in Arizona. He is from Indianapolis, another one of the top recruits on the roster for Kenny Payne. And he's only averaging about 4 points per game. What have you seen from Kamari Lands as he tries to get his footing in college basketball?
Still trying to find himself as a guy that can shoot it from the perimeter, although he hasn't made shots yet at this level. Likes that little runner in the lane. Has a lot of ability. But still trying to figure out just what exactly it is that works at the college game.
Off the Traynor miss, here comes Jameer Young. Right down the lane, nobody there to stop him.
That's elementary transition defense. And now you're trying to play fast. They're going to get you for steps.
We'll take a break with Maryland back up 13. Start. One of only 3 unbeatens in the Big Ten Conference. Only 20 unbeatens remaining around the country. But Purdue at number 5. Still has yet to lose. Have you seen the Boilermakers at all this year,
Yeah,
Robbie?
I saw them in Portland. I have to say, super impressive. I mean, we knew that Zach Edey was going to be a force down low, but their freshman guards have been terrific. With very deep front court, shoot the ball at a high level. The Big Ten has gotten off to a terrific start through non-conference play. Now the deal is going to be you've got to prove it in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
That's going to happen. But so far, so good for the really whole league.
James came up with a block shot on the drive. So Purdue will play again at Florida State tomorrow, 7:15, right here on ESPN2. And the other unbeaten still is Indiana. The Hoosiers are number 10 in the country, and they will play tomorrow in one of the big games in the ACC Big Ten Challenge against North Carolina, 9:15 on ESPN. And you're right. I mean, Coach Boeheim at Syracuse made very clear several weeks ago talking about the fact that, yes, the Big Ten was great in the regular season, but until you do it in the postseason, in his book, it doesn't matter.
No, that's what you're judged upon. And the Big Ten, for whatever reason, has, for the last couple years, had great non-conference seasons, looked like the best league in the country, and then just not lived up to the hype come NCAA tournament time. I'm really interested to see Indiana take on a North Carolina team that has got to be just so hungry coming out of the Phil Knight Invitation. kind of gave the game away against Iowa State. The turnovers late just totally did them in, but a lot of talent and Final Four pedigree on that Carolina ball club, and it's going to be an insane atmosphere at Assembly Hall.
Well, have you got a theory as Huntley-Hatfield makes a pair of free throws? Have you got a theory on why the Big Ten, when it's gotten to the NCAA tournament in recent years, has not performed as well as it's done it during the regular season?
I think some of it's matchup based, some of it's luck, of course, because it's a one-off. It's not a 7-game series, and I think that the Big Ten maybe last year this is not the case because the league had 3 lottery picks and 2 other guys get drafted. But I think a lot of the pro talent has been in other leagues. I think the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC have gotten more pros. And in those one-off games, that's what wins.
Martinez had his shot blocked by Huntley-Hatfield, but then the whistle. Foul number 2 on Mike James. And so Patrick Emilian, the grad transfer who played last year at St. Francis of Brooklyn, misses the first. Well, the 24th annual ACC Big Ten Challenge rolls on tomorrow with number 17 Duke hosting number 25 Ohio State at Cameron in our first game at 7:15 Eastern, and then number 18 North Carolina taking on number 10 Indiana at Assembly Hall in Bloomington. Both Sonic blockbusters are on ESPN and the app. Albert Ellis III at the point. Huntley-Hatfield just barrels his way into the lane and scores.
I'll tell you what, he's made things happen on the offensive end of the floor and having a nice little sequence here. Blocked a shot on the other end, now off the bounce. As a big, he's more than capable of making plays off the dribble, and you're right. Just runs over Dante Scott, but under control enough to get a bucket.
Blocking foul. The crowd wanted to travel before any contact.
Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, such a talented guy, making his way to the basket. Dante Scott goes down. He finds a way to score it. Now here's the play that I'm okay with the block, but it might have been a travel before that happened. I think that's fair to say.
That is Bert Smith having a conversation with Kenny Payne. Huntley-Hatfield sets the screen. Now on the switch, has Carey trying to defend. Here comes the double team. Ellis. Tough 3 goes.
Those count. That's what Jameer Young nodding his head at Ellis, saying, all right, I see you on that one, because that's a big-time play and another tough shot. But this time, Ellis just going and making something happen.
Young dumps it off. Emilian on the reverse.
It's a really mature play by Jameer Young. Looks like going one-on-one against Ellis. Instead finds his teammate, drops it off. Could have easily taken a tough shot, but instead made a play for someone else.
Ellis into traffic, banks it in.
He's just willing himself to score the ball right here. This is as tough of a bucket as you can get. Here's off the bounce, making the perimeter jumper, and then getting to the basket and making things happen for Louisville.
Scott turns and hits.
That's his bread and butter. I mean, he can back you down and get to his right jump hook. It's going to be a long night. Just a real 3-level score. Just think, if you're the Maryland defense here, you have got to be in and make Ellis score over the top.
Out of bounds. Maryland basketball. That was a great closeout by Young.
He certainly got back in, and Ellis is going to take tough shots. If you're Jameer Young, you're making him prove it over the top of you. I think the plays that will really bother Kevin Willard will be the drives to the basket. Because when you look at what the other guys on the floor for Louisville are shooting from three, you'd much rather have them shooting perimeter shots than Ellis at the rim, that's been his best offense all year. 61% from the field on shots around the basket.
$15 to shoot. They go back inside to Reese. Go into that left hand.
He got the shot that. Lucky to not turn it over.
6 on the shot clock. Now Hart goes into the lane. He finds an open man. Contact on the shot with just over 1 on the shot clock. Reese comes away holding his head as he heads to the line.
It looks like it's going to be a quality defensive possession for the Louisville Cardinals, but you have two guys just overrun the play, and that's Roosevelt Wheeler and Kamari Lands going to the same offensive player, and you leave Julian Reese wide open at the rim.
And that's just communication.
Just talking it out.
Well, Julian is a tremendous prospect at Maryland, but you know, his older sister Angel was a McDonald's All-American at St. Francis Academy, played a couple of years at Maryland, where she earned third-team All-American last year, led the Terps to the Sweet 16, but has since transferred to LSU, playing for Hall of Famer Kim Mulkey. And you think about some of the great brother-sister combinations. I first go to the Millers, Cheryl, beating up on Reggie, and I imagine there was some beating up being done on the Reese family.
Angel Reese can really play. Well, Julian's a very good player in his own right. I would have loved to have seen those battles at the Reese home.
Here's this weekend's featured college football lineup. Conference Championship Saturday begins noon Eastern on ABC with a Dr. Pepper Big 12 title game between Kansas State and TCU. Then number 22 UCF and number 19 Tulane square off for the AAC title. And in primetime, 8th-ranked Clemson takes on number 17 North Carolina in the ACC championship game. And then on Sunday on ESPN, noon Eastern, the exclusive reveal of the final college football playoff rankings, finding out also who's going to play in both the Peach and Fiesta Bowls. What do you imagine that conversation's about?
Trying to think about maybe a defensive play that he was involved in. Looked like the official Tony Henderson was talking about getting an off arm around him, but you never know. Players always complain about any foul they committed. So I'll just assume that it's I'm assuming that that's what Julian Reese was talking about, a prior foul.
And here is Reese at the line. The official saying, "This is not the NBA. Turn the music off."
I don't think in the NBA they allow music during opponent free throws, so that would even be a rarity there.
Final 5 seconds of the half. Ellis glances at the clock as he dribbles into the front court. 2 seconds, 1 into the corner. An extra pass, and that was one pass too many. Kamari Lands never had a chance to get that off of the extra pass by Hersey Miller. We've reached halftime here in Louisville. Terps up 37-26. We go back to the studio. Seth LaFonso. And there you see Scott and Young nearly outscoring the Cardinals in the first 20 minutes all by themselves. Very efficient, the two of them. And as we've seen all season with this 6-0 Maryland team, they have had good distribution both in shots and in scoring. Louisville with the basketball first to begin the second half. Brandon Huntley-Hatfield gets bottle teamed, and Carey swiped it away.
Like Don Carey just going down there and taking the ball. It's an isolation play for Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, and he just blew it up.
And that seems appropriate that the other end, Carey gets his first bucket of the night.
He's a shooter that hasn't shot it well over the last 2 games. 1 for his last 10 from the three-point line. That's a big one right there to get his confidence going.
Ellis leads Louisville with 9 points. He's got the basketball, and in a pile-up along the lane, we've got a foul off the ball.
Well, Louisville out of halftime trying to go to Huntley-Hatfield in the post, and he turns his back on the help side defense. Don Carey sniffs it out, just takes his ball, and then poor transition defense by the Louisville Cardinals. You don't match up, and Don Carey makes you pay.
Off the inbound, an easy 2 for J.J. Traynor.
I think every team in America runs that play. Screen for the screener, back screen, and you see it at the middle school level, high school level, college level. It just seems to always work, so there's a good reason for teams running it.
Dante Scott for 3.
Let's see if Maryland can heat up. They've had some good looks from the three-point line, and I said it in the first half, they can run hot and cold from downtown, but there, Dante Scott getting a good look and knocking it down just like Don Carey did.
And by the way, on that last foul, it was against Julian Reese, his 3rd, and he stays in the ball game. This is the largest lead of the night so far. Maryland up by 15.
And Kevin Willard showing a lot of trust in his sophomore big. This Maryland team not deep, and certainly not deep at his position.
Off the Withers miss. Scott brings it up. Hart for 3.
It's transition again. Louisville not getting back, and you're putting that defender in such a tough spot, having to choose between 2 quality shooters. But Maryland getting it done from the three-point line, moving the basketball. Dante Scott paying it off, and then getting in transition. Hakeem Hart letting it fly.
10 challenge. And we want to spotlight the 9 teams from those 2 conferences, 6 from the Big Ten, 3 from the ACC, currently in the top 25. One of them is underway as well as we speak. 16th ranked Illinois leads Syracuse over on ESPN late in the first half, 28-23. But based on that, it certainly seems like the Big Ten has the upper hand and should have the upper hand again this year, as we've seen in recent years between these 2 leagues.
A rough week out in Portland for Duke and North Carolina, and I agree. The depth of the Big Ten Conference certainly showing itself there, and a pleasant surprise to see Maryland and Ohio State both sneaking into the top 25. That's a really nice set there drawn up by Kenny Payne. It's a simple duck-in on that weak side from Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, and I think that it's a good play to run more through him. He's a talented guy. They're trying to get him to be more locked in every possession, but he can make things happen.
Foul on the drive against Louisville. 3rd on Jalen Withers.
I think also if you run things through Huntley-Hatfield, it's just going to take some of the pressure off Ellis to have to create every time down the floor.
Maryland's had the hot hand in the second half. Now 4 for 4 as a team is Maryland from beyond the three-point line.
Have been on fire, and that was a tough look over the top of Huntley-Hatfield, but clearly out of halftime, Maryland playing extremely confident in that hot cold. It's running hot from the three-point line now.
Ellis pulls up. Little too strong off the back iron. Carey comes away with it, and Ellis says, give it to me. He goes right back to the basket and lays it in.
I thought he had the most energy today at shoot-around for the Louisville Cardinals, and that's a pure effort play. He makes a drive, doesn't finish it, but his defense stays in the play, stealing points.
Kenny Payne talked to us about his ability to step into a bigger leadership role. He is one of the 3 tri-captains as the Terrapins remain hot. This is Dante Scott with another triple.
That's going to drive Kenny Payne nuts because they walked through that roll and replace action multiple times today. They wanted to exit out from the weak side and just no communication. Dante Scott wide open for 3. Three-point barrage just continues on. Don Carey now shooting it with a ton of confidence, jabbing and pulling. And here, this should be a switch on that backside, but no communication. J.J. Traynor trying to get back in the play. That's as wide open as you will be in a college basketball game.
Carey picked up his first personal. He heads to the bench along with Julian Reese, Martinez, and Emilian back on for the Terrapins. Well, you do have concerns about Maryland's depth going forward. Ellis for 3, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Ian Martinez played well against St. Louis, had 14, big-time athlete. I think he can help the team. Seen Patrick Emilion come out here and play well on the road. Ike Cornish not here, feeling under the weather. Noah Batchelor, a freshman. I think Jahari Long give good minutes, but just it's unproven. Whereas I think the starting five, you know what you're getting with the 3 returners, and then the 2 transfers have been phenomenal.
Little no-look pass and the flush by Martinez.
He is a big-time athlete. Had a dunk last year, I believe against Illinois. A windmill where he just went upstairs, and he can hammer it. Showing it off right there with the back cut.
Mike James along the baseline, left a little short, gets it back, denied by 2 Terrapins, and here comes Maryland on the run. To the rim, Scott brings it down. Finds Hart on the wing. A rare missed 3 for Maryland here in the second half. Battle now with COVID and get him back on the radio as much and as soon as possible. And today is Giving Tuesday, a global day of giving. And it's also the start of ESPN's V Week. When we continue Jim Valvano's fight against cancer, you can make a difference today by supporting cancer research, which is needed now more than ever. If you are able, give now at v.org/donate. 100% of your donation goes to cancer research.
Cancer, a disease that it doesn't discriminate. All of us know someone, whether it's in your family or a friend group, that's been affected by cancer, and the V Foundation has just been phenomenal. And the job that both Dick Vitale and Jim Valvano have done raising money for cancer. I know I lost my grandmother to the terrible disease. I know you have family as well. And every dollar that we raise goes to fight that terrible disease.
And then the good news is from that research, people like Bob Valvano and Robin Roberts can beat cancer. And my oldest brother, Paul, has twice beaten cancer. And so, again, it's very important, if you can, please donate to the V Foundation. And it is remarkable what they've been able to do in the last 30 years. Tens of millions of dollars raised.
And I want to give a shout-out to Dickie V, because if you listen to him speak about cancer and pediatric cancer, it's more powerful than any game you'll hear him call. And he's been iconic at doing that. So thanks, Dick, for doing all the work that you do and continue to do. And I know the V Foundation is going to continue to do great things.
Louisville with the basketball down 22 against the 22nd ranked team in the country. Maryland has led throughout. Louisville made a push late in the first half to keep it within reach, but the Terps have come out firing and extended the lead here in the second half. And again, this is a Maryland team undefeated this year, and they have trailed for less than 3.5 minutes on the game clock the entire season.
That's hard to believe. And certainly with Miami and St. Louis and Mohegan Sun, that schedule ratcheted up from what it was. But still, think about how many games a team comes out and just hits a 3 early or is up 5-2 or whatever. We have been dominant this season. Honestly, if they had shot the ball a little better at Mohegan, I know you were there, they could have beat Miami by 25 or 30 points. I mean, they had good looks and just didn't make them. Here in the second half, they've had good looks and just made every one of them.
Well, what's your early feel in the season on Maryland in the Big Ten Conference?
I do worry a little bit about their depth at the center position. I think Julian Reese is a great piece, but if he gets in foul trouble guarding the Hunter Dickinsons, the Zach Edey's, the Trace Jackson Davises of the league, that's certainly going to be a problem, because you're going to have to play Dante Scott as an undersized 5. On the flip side of that, they've got to guard him too.
Right.
And that could be a problem for those bigs. Foul trouble's concerning, but I think that Kevin Willard, considering what he took over, taking Jameer Young and Don Carey and keeping the core of Hakeem Hart, Dante Scott, Julian Reese, I mean, he has done a phenomenal job to get those guys to buy in, to understand what he wants. I think bright days are ahead for Terrapin basketball.
Ellis tried to throw it down on Julian Reese. Well, both these programs went through midseason coaching changes, and that throws off so many things. I mean, just the player development gets interrupted. And you've got to say, Kevin Willard and his staff has done a remarkable job to take that baton and run with it.
Well, think about what was thrown at Danny Manning last season. I mean, that's not a situation that's fair in any way, shape, or form. And I thought he did a really nice job of keeping that thing afloat. They were competitive late. They won some games at the end of the year. They were always in games. And it's so hard because your freshman year, if you're Julian Reese, your freshman year is so disjointed. I can't even imagine what it's like to lose your head coach, especially at the college level. As a pro, it's different. But when you're playing college basketball, you look at your college coach differently. They're more of an authority figure. And I think what this group went through last year was incredibly difficult. And that guy right there knocked it out of the park. He did a great job.
And again, Danny Manning was on Mark Turgeon's staff and took over on an interim basis from Maryland. And then when the staff change was made complete at the end of the season, he was hired by Kenny Payne and now is on the other bench for Louisville. And there is the 1988 National Player of the Year, former Kansas Jayhawk, and a college Hall of Famer. He seems much more professorial wearing those reading glasses down his nose. Even during shoot-around today, I was struck by the idea that, well, now he's in his mid-50s. He looks more like a professor.
I love talking to him. I mean, just some of his stories as a player and what he went through, blowing his knee out multiple times and still coming back and not just winning a national title for Kansas, but also being a great NBA player. He lasted in the league for a long time, and it's not an easy thing to do. He fought through adversity and has come through to not just be a great player, but then go on to be a coach and impact young players. And I think that's an incredible thing to do.
Kamari lands. Sidney Curry back on the floor for Louisville. Mike James, Ellis, who feeds the post. Big block from behind as Dante Scott says no to Huntley-Hatfield.
This is just erased by Dante Scott. Huntley-Hatfield has been really aggressive, thinks he's got one-on-one coverage, but Dante Scott, the second he turned his back on him, just went and made a play on the ball.
Well, it's been a bit puzzling, the downturn for Sidney Curry this year. As a junior last season, he closed out so strong, you thought, well, there's a building block for Kenny Payne, and now he's coming off the bench. It just hasn't worked as well so far this year.
And they've talked about his conditioning. He needs to probably get in a little bit better game shape, but you're right. The talent is there, and it just has not clicked for whatever reason this season.
Ellis way off the mark. Scott, and in transition, another wide-open three ball buried by Martinez.
Dante Scott had options there. And off a miss like that, it's just you're starting to break. You're just not giving your defense a chance. I don't think that Louisville's been great defensively tonight, but you turn the ball over and you take shots that are hitting off the top of the backboard. I mean, you're letting Maryland get whatever they want. This is contested. That shot clock needs to be hitting 1 if you're taking a shot like that. That's a horse shot for Ian Martinez from the corner.
And Robbie, we said it from the very first possession of the ball game. That's not officially a turnover, but it may as well be.
Might as well be. Yeah, you might as well just be handing the ball to the other team because they're going down and scoring at will off shots like that.
And it's worse than a traveling violation or a double dribble or passing it out of bounds.
You'd be better off kicking the ball out of bounds.
Yep.
At least then you can set your defense.
Huntley-Hatfield misfires.
I don't think that's the shot that Kenny Payne is looking for. Not that he can't make it, but again, you've had a couple rough possessions. Just move the ball.
Air ball from Don Carey.
Louisville just needs to move the ball from side to side. Don't over dribble. Mike James making a play.
He was a medical redshirt last year after suffering a torn Achilles in his left leg, and he's another one we can qualify as really playing his first year of college basketball.
5 different Terrapins knock one down from the perimeter, and it has been in the half court. It's been in transition. It really hasn't mattered. Just a 3-point barrage, and has to make any Terrapin fan smile because at times they've been a little bit hot and cold, but the second half they have been scorching hot.
And they've gotten a good boost off the bench from Ian Martinez, making 2 of those 3-pointers. He's got 8 points. Patrick Emilion's got 4 off the bench, and the starters, as usual, delivering. Dante Scott leading the way with 18 points, including 3 of 6 from distance. Jameer Young's got 14 points and 3 assists for Coach Kevin Willard, former Pitt Panther, played there for his dad back in the mid-90s. And his first foray into the Big Ten Conference after spending so much time in the Big East Conference, both as a player and then a short stint in the MAC, 3 years as head coach at Iona, and then the 12-year run at Seton Hall, and back in Louisville, where he was an assistant under Rick Pitino for a number of years. And you were right in talking to him this morning in this building. You can tell how much the city of Louisville means to him. It was nice to hear him open up about that.
The growth as a coach and to grow your family in this city and then win the way that they did, it's no surprise. You see kind of Kevin Willard's career trajectory from high major assistant to Iona to the winner he built at Seton Hall. And now I just think the potential at Maryland with the players that come out of that area high school wise and the tradition, it's a great fit. And Kevin Willard just wins.
Devin Ree, the freshman from Jackson, Mississippi, into the game with his first two. And here come the Cardinals again. James into the lane. No. Here is Martinez. And one of the questions we asked Kevin Willard, what did you learn from taking over at Iona and then at Seton Hall that you can use both good and bad at Maryland? And he said it's so important to make sure you lay your foundation with your very first roster having your kind of guys. The dunk by a million. And he said he didn't do as good a job at Seton Hall as he would have liked, and he felt like it set them back in rebuilding that program.
You're never going to go wrong with high character. I think he's certainly learned that lesson, and he's got high character kids here. It seems like he loves coaching them, really likes this group, likes to be around them. I think that there are good things ahead for Maryland as a program.
5 to shoot. Miller. Tough shot once again. Dante Scott with another rebound.
And I think, looking at that same topic for Louisville, it's been a really tough start. But I think that Kenny Payne is going to have every opportunity. And again, you have to talk about the NCAA investigation because it totally limited them in terms of who they could go get to help this roster. They've got Ellis and Hersey Miller, who's a walk-on, that are guards that get any minutes on this team. The rest of the group is all forwards. And they certainly are still learning what he wants and learning how to play. But it's going to be a process for sure. But Kenny Payne was not given a good hand of cards to play here.
Front end of the 1-and-1 missed by Curry. Young feeds Reese. Working on Curry. Gets right to the rim. (65-39) Maryland. Ellis drive and dish. Find the open man in the corner. Huntley-Hatfield has it go around and out. Maryland, though, lost the basketball out of bounds. And so Louisville gets it back. Well, coming up next over on ESPN or the ESPN app. 9:30 Eastern Time, the 24th Annual ACC Big Ten Challenge, rolling on with number 3 Virginia taking on Michigan at the Chrysler Center. We talked in the first half about Virginia getting back to being Virginia and having an offense that certainly seems sustainable along with that D. Off the transition, easy layup for Hakeem Hart. What do you think about Michigan in the Big Ten this year?
Well, Hunter Dickinson is a great place to start. I do have questions about their guard play. Jalen Llewellyn is trying to make that step up from Princeton in the Ivy League to now the Big Ten. And Michigan has had kind of a mixed bag, I guess you could say, with some of these transfer point guards. But they're going to have to get better guard play. Jet Howard's an incredibly talented freshman, and you've got a great start with Hunter. But they need some people around him to make plays. And going against that Virginia defense, it cannot just be the Hunter Dickinson show. I mean, he's going to have a post trap on him every time he touches the basketball.
There you see coming up within the hour. 9:30 Eastern time. The Wolverines and the Cavaliers. At the free throw line, Julian Reese, top 50 recruit a couple of years ago out of St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. Fabio Basili has come into the game for the first time for Louisville, a freshman who didn't commit to the Cardinals until mid-August. Perhaps he can provide some relief going forward in that backcourt you're talking about.
They need bodies. If I'm Kenny Payne in Louisville, I want to see my team play solid basketball. Move it, run our sets, defensively match up, find our man, don't turn the ball over, and we'll live with the results. But I think that's where you've got to start right now, because they have had a hard time tonight executing the basics of both offense and defense.
Jahari Long in the backcourt now for Maryland. From the free throw line, Noah Batchelor buries the jumper and draws the foul. Everybody for the Terrapins getting in to the mix.
You're right. Everyone contributing in this Maryland victory. Noah Batchelor just flashing to the high post against that freshman.
22nd ranked Maryland trying to get the Big Ten Conference on the board with Robbie Hummel on Doug Sherman. And as we mentioned off the top, this is a series that is going away after 24 years. And for you, back in your playing days at Purdue, it was a big measuring stick for the Boilermakers.
Absolutely, because you understood that outside of the Big East, which at the time was just an absolute monster, the ACC was the conference that you really wanted to measure yourself against. And it is sad to me that it's going away. I got to play in this event. It was always such a good experience to get to go play people that you didn't get to see normally. You played in venues you'd never been to. And I remember the Big Ten had never won this event going into the ACC Big Ten Challenge in 2009. And I remember talking to other guys from other teams at Media Day, and we talked about how this has to be our year. We were close last year, and we got to get this done. And it was a point of pride because it was so competitive. And now it's become more one-sided to the Big Ten, I would say, over the last 10 or 11 years.
Sure.
But the ACC dominated this thing for the first 8-9 years in its existence. So I just think it is the end of an era, and it is sad to me because there's been so many great games and good matchups, and life will go on, and there will continue to be great games and good matchups out of conference, but this has been a spectacular event for 24 years.
And the Terps have been on both sides of it. They left the ACC for the Big Ten in 2014, and after doing very well as an ACC team, they've not done nearly as well in the Big Ten. And I found it interesting, you were sharing a story off Mike before the ball game. In one of your Purdue games in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, you faced a Duke team that really let you know how much better you guys needed to be.
Yeah, it was my sophomore year, and it was the biggest game of the season. Both teams were in the top 10 in an unbelievable environment at Mackey Arena. And thanks a lot, Nolan Smith, for coming in there and just whooping our butt. It might have been the hardest practice that I ever had the next day. The film session, brutal. But you're absolutely right. It showed us what we needed to be an elite team. And we weren't there yet. Mm-hmm. But it did help us the year after, where I think that we, until I hurt my knee, we played at that level. We were a top 3 or 4 team in the country, and we don't win those games at Michigan State, Ohio State, beat Tennessee on a neutral floor, or beat West Virginia on New Year's Day if we don't have those types of games. So it really helped us.
Well, you mentioned some of the venues you got to play in this challenge that you might not otherwise. There's Nolan. Did he mention, by the way, when you saw him at shoot-around today, what he had done to you?
We did not talk about that. It was great to see him. I will say that. But, man, the film session was an individual reaming of each player who did not play well. I mean, it was crazy. I called one of our assistants after practice and needed to be talked up because it was Kyle Sigler kicked my butt. There's no doubt about that.
But I was curious, what are the 2 buildings that you got to play in the ACC that you wouldn't have otherwise?
We went to Virginia Tech and played them with Malcolm Delaney and that group, which was a really tough team.
Castle Coliseum's a tough place to go.
And my first road game at Clemson, and it was overwhelming. It really was. I don't even know if it was that great of an atmosphere for what they normally have, but they were ranked in the top 25. They had James Mays. James Mays, and I just remember, and it's your first road game, so it's always going to be a little bit different. It was chaos. It really was.
Well, nothing chaotic for Kevin Willard and his Terrapins so far this year. Well on their way to a 7-0 start to the season. And again, this is petty stuff. No other coach has taken over a Maryland men's basketball program and started with 6 wins.
This was the first test here. Getting your first road win of the season. You got the Illini coming in next. Then you go to Wisconsin. They're going to find out a lot about who they are. But you have to say, if you could script a start, this would be how you would script Kevin Willard's first 7 games.
Right.
You've aced the test.
You could see on his face this morning just how elated he was, and he said it multiple times. The fact, I think he's shocked that for the past 2 weeks he has this program in the national rankings. It means something to him to be number 22 right now.
Totally. I mean, the work that he's done and his staff has done, it's been a terrific job. And there's still work to be done. There's no question about that.
But they've put themselves in position to be in position.
Absolutely. You win your games in the non-conference. You give yourself a chance to be an at-large team in the NCAA tournament. It's just the thing now is how do you keep improving? How do you keep getting better and better? And I think that he has done a terrific job. And I think also has done a nice job of stepping back and realizing, hey, we are doing a great job. He's given credit to his assistants and players.
Yeah, we mentioned the first half. David Cox, Tony Skinn, a couple of the assistants who have roots, deep roots in the DMV. And they have come together in terms of reinforcing the roster holdovers that they had, then bringing in new talent and coaching them up. It's been a good formula so far. Oh, I promised former Maryland assistant coach, I don't remember what he said his title is at Under Armour now, but Jimmy Passos was here during shoot-around.
Yeah, always good to see Jimmy.
Wanted to shout out. And, of course, Jimmy was on the bench when Maryland won the national championship under Gary Williams a couple of decades ago.
How fun was that team to watch?
Wow.
I mean, the guard play, the bigs, they had everything.
Nice round of applause for Fabio Basili. Young man out of Oak Ridge High School in Orlando.
This is a great audition for Basili here to make a case for more minutes. They need guards, and so far impacting the game in a positive way.
Ellis to the corner. Some good-looking basketball on the last couple of possessions. Reed buries the 3.
It's all about being solid, and you can hear the crowd. They understand that solid plays are going to help them win games, and they just haven't done enough of it tonight. But still, they need to just keep doing the little things.
And Reed's another one. He was a top 100 recruit who maybe isn't quite ready to contribute just yet, but he has shown himself well so far here tonight in a couple of short bursts. Friday, our NBA doubleheader on ESPN, and the app has LeBron and the Lakers in Milwaukee starting a 6-game road trip against Giannis and the Bucks, 6:30 Central, 4:30 Pacific, with Stephen A's telecast on ESPN2, and then it's off to the Chase Center for Steph and the Warriors hosting DeMar DeRozan and the Bulls. Our coverage tips off with NBA Countdown at 7 on ESPN and the app. Are the Warriors back?
Boy, it looked like their demise was so public, right? And all of a sudden, the NBA is the ultimate drama, right? I mean, it's such a soap opera. And it really is fascinating to see the way that, storylines mold throughout the season, and everybody was saying, oh, it's over with. As long as you've got Steph Curry, it's not over. I mean, he just is, to me, he's one of the top 5 players to ever play.
Wow.
I think he's totally changed the game.
There's no question about that.
He's changed the way we think about it. He's won at the highest level. Sure, you can argue certain guys ahead of him, but I think he's got to be in the conversation.
Well, there's no question he changed the game as much as anybody. I mean, you go back to Wilt and Bill Russell, the way they changed the game in a much different manner, of course. But you're right. From the grassroots all the way up to the highest level of professional basketball, Steph Curry has changed everything.
He's also made us see so many bad shots. But I can't blame him for that because he makes them. But how many guys have we seen that now, in a 2-on-1 run to the three-point line?
That's
what he does. Everybody does. 2-on-1s don't end up in dunks anymore. They're just threes.
It's an 8-0 Louisville run.
You know what? If you shoot 46% from three, why not?
Vasily called for the foul, but he's been at the center of the 8-0 Louisville run on the other end. And so Jameer Young will shoot a 1-and-1. Now he's had to go through a transition since leaving Charlotte for Maryland, because they played a Princeton style. And so he's had to learn new things or get reacclimated with new things, and has done very, very well. A lot of responsibility on his plate for Kevin Willard.
You know what, though? If you run the Princeton offense, it tells any coach you know how to play and you're a really good cutter. And you can also pass, because those things all are essential to run that offense. And if you come from the Princeton offense, I have no doubt in most systems you will find your way, because you just know how to play basketball.
Under 4 minutes to go in regulation.
And the same cannot be said for the reverse of that. Just because you play college basketball doesn't mean you could play in the Princeton system. And it's very unique in that regard.
Well, here is Jameer Young, the graduate transfer from Charlotte. And a blocking foul will send Don Carey to the free throw line, shooting a 1-and-1 when we come back. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball. 3:41 remaining. And 22nd ranked Maryland has very much looked the part. With Robbie Hummel, I'm Doug Sherman, 74-48. And the Terps, as we've said, the schedule is going to get tougher from here, but this was a road test. You go on the road in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Nothing is guaranteed, and they have done what they've needed to do.
The second half shooting has been so impressive. 6 of 11 from downtown. They've gotten whatever they wanted. But you're absolutely right. You just never know until you go on the road the first time. And that's a daunting schedule right there. We are going to find out a lot about what Maryland is as the competition ramps up.
As you see, they've got Illinois coming up. Over on ESPN right now, the Illini, ranked 16th in the country, leads Syracuse 38-30 with about 12.5 to go in the second half.
I'm really curious to see what the crowd will look like in College Park for that Illinois game. Huge game, and last year certainly the fan-supported slipped some, whereas 7-8 years ago that was one of the, I would say, best venues in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I would say they're going to have a great crowd.
I hope so.
I can't
expect
imagine
to see
otherwise.
that, because it's going to be a big-time game in the Big Ten Conference.
Well, College Park, much like here in Louisville, is college basketball country.
Absolutely.
And they know their basketball. They're passionate about it. And when things aren't going well, as we have seen here in Louisville this week and today, they'll let you know. But I don't think for a second that if Louisville, as soon as they turn it back around, whether it's this year or next year,
they'll come back.
Exactly. And I think for that game, as you say, Robbie, I do think with the Terps about to go to 7-0, I would think they will be all ready to go. Vasily makes his way into the lane. It looked as though Callum Swanton-Roger may have gotten a piece of it for a block shot.
It's one where you've gotten to the paint, you've done your job, but it's got to be a play for someone else now. You've drawn multiple defenders. It's a nice Euro step. Jahari Long. Kevin Willard gushed about him.
Yeah.
Not just as a player, but as a person. Comes over from Seton Hall. A guy that's really played well as their backup point guard.
And Kevin said he did not plan to recruit any of his Seton Hall players. He went out of his way not to recruit them. But then when he saw Jahari go into the portal, they did contact each other. And, Jahari has had injury trouble and a bout with COVID his freshman year, which kind of undermined things. So this is kind of the start of his college career as a junior. His first go-around with Maryland. Hersey Miller. First foul on Swanton. Roger. Oh, we talked about the fact that Louisville lost its first 3 games of the season by single points to Bellarmine, to Wright State, to App State. And you just wonder if 1 or 2 or 3 of those go the other way, how that might change things and how going to Maui feels different for this team.
Well, they say winning's contagious, and losing certainly is too. And the way they lost those games, multiple big comebacks. The Appalachian State game is pure heartbreak. I mean, you think you win the game, you're celebrating like you did, and then they go review it at the table, and that's in the hands of Ellis by 1/10 of a second. It's just been one of those seasons where nothing has gone right for the Louisville Cardinals, and I agree with you. If you get 1 or 2 of those, you feel differently about yourself. That doesn't mean they would have necessarily won every game in Maui, but you think you're in a different mindset. And it carries over, and it has been a tough start to the Kenny Payne era here for Louisville.
And the only thing that reverses that is a win.
Absolutely.
And then the second win, right?
Yep.
I mean, there's no other way around it. Carson Dick comes into the game for Maryland. Pavlo Zubu is also in, a junior from Ukraine. Foul will send Big Roosevelt Wheeler to the free throw line. Cancer research, which is needed now more than ever. If you are able, give now at v.org/donate. 100% of your donation goes to cancer research. And again, we wish that Jimmy V's younger brother Bobby was able to join us here tonight. That was the plan, but he's dealing with COVID. And so hopefully the next time through Louisville, we'll have a chance to see Bobby V as he continues to be a huge part of the V Foundation in raising those millions. Ashton Miles DeVore into the game, a walk-on. His father, Ellis Miles, was the starting center on Louisville's 2005 Final Four team. Here's Long, the former Seton Hall Pirate. And he knocked it out of bounds, out of the hands of Wheeler, back to Louisville. We also have Aiden McCool on the court for Louisville against Maryland. He was with the Terps the last 2 years and transferred. He is a walk-on the end of the bench for Kenny Payne now.
I think Fabio Basili has earned a chance to get regular minutes. I mean, he's competed. He's made some plays on both ends. Got bailed out right there. I think that with the guard situation, he at least deserves a shot.
Well, he reclassified for this opportunity. And so he arrived on the Louisville campus in August. A relatively late start. But I think you're right. Long's pass kicked by Miles DeVore, and so they'll inbound it on the baseline. Well, it will be interesting throughout the rest of tonight, Robbie, and then tomorrow with the ACC Big Ten Challenge to see which conference comes out on top. Again, ACC got the head start with 2 wins last night, but in recent years, the Big Ten has had the upper hand for sure.
Just love the event because really every night you've got quality basketball, and we get spoiled with Feast Week. We saw it last week in Portland, Atlantis, Maui. But you always know the Big Ten ACC Challenge was going to give you great matchups, and that's what we're going to get the next night and a half.
Final 10 seconds. And Basili, at the direction of his head coach, will dribble it out. Kevin Willard's Terrapins now 7-0 with an impressive win in the ACC Big Ten Challenge.
It was really start to finish for Maryland, and they just got it done. The perimeter shooting in that second half just pushed it out, but Kevin Willard's ball club locked in from the get-go tonight.
Once again, our final score, 79-54 Maryland. For Rob